Most of your favorite producers don't know shit about music theory, so today I'm going to make the most beginner-friendly tutorial on how to make melodies without really knowing theory. It's such an overcomplicated topic in the producing industry, and I'm here to make it as simple as possible. So without further ado, let's get it. So I'm going to assume you're probably making hip-hop beats. If you're not, you can still follow along, but if you are making hip-hop, well, lucky to you, it's probably the easiest genre in the world to make. And step one is to just pick a scale. Once you're a little more advanced, you can go outside of the scale. You don't need to pick a scale, but as a complete beginner, just stick to a scale and you'll be good. The easiest scale to remember is C major or A minor. They're both the same notes, which is just all the white notes on the piano. So it's very easy. You can't forget it. As a beginner, I would recommend just literally stick to one key. Memorize the notes in that key. Get comfortable with that key. If you don't want all your beats to sound the same, you could just transpose it after. My key of choice is C minor. I'm a little more advanced, so I can kind of do anything, but when I first started, I just chose C minor and I just kept doing that. So a cheat code here is you can go up here, go to view, go to scale highlighting, and then select your root note, which I'll select C, and then you can go to minor natural. And now all of these gray notes are your notes in the C minor scale. So as long as you click in notes that are gray, you're gonna always be in the scale. And now you're automatically gonna sound way better than if you weren't in the scale and you were going outside and it just wasn't sounding good. So that's a good baseline for beginners. On top of that, you can actually make it so you can't click notes outside of the scale at all. So you see this button right here, snap to scale. Now, I can't even click. Like I'm trying to click that note that isn't in the scale. I literally can't do it. So that's great if you're a beginner. So now we have our scale set up. We have all that set up. Now how do you actually build a melody? Well, most melodies are going to start with the chord progression. You've probably seen some stuff that kind of looks like this, where they have like a bunch of numbers. I'm going to explain what that means in a very easy to understand way. Every note in the scale is associated with a number. We're in C minor, so it starts at C, and that would be 1. Now the next note in the scale is D, that would be 2. Next note in the scale is D sharp, that would be 3, and then so on. So you'll see like a common chord progression like 6, 5, 1. So what that means is it's going to go at the 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right here. 5, which is right below it. And then 1, which is C. So this would be the bass notes of your chord progression if you were doing a 6, 5, 1. Now, how do you actually build chords off that? So I'm going to show you easiest way to do it. Not the only way to do it, but the easiest beginner-friendly way to do it is to just follow your scale. So to build a chord, skip every other note in the scale. We're already snapped to the scale, so just go up. We're going to skip this note here, then skip this note here. And we're going to do that for all of these. There we go. Super basic progression done. So that's pretty much what every basic tutorial tells you. Now, how do you actually make it sound good? Because like, yeah, okay, cool. You know how to make a chord. You know how to use the scale highlighting, but you can still make a melody that sounds like shit. Well, the next part is actually understanding how to make your sound or your vibe. So I'm going to go over 2 kind of sounds. One's going to be more of the emotional sound, and then 2 is going to be more of the dark sound. Now, I could go on and explain like the music theory and like the different chord types, major, minor, but I don't really use that when it comes to making my chord progressions. I just listen to the bass notes. So if you're a beginner, it's very easy to always start on the 1, like we said before, in the C minor scale, that would be C. And then I just like to go from there. I don't like to think like, oh, this is going to be C minor, so do I want to go to like A major next or whatever's even in the scale. I don't really think that. I just listen to the bass notes. So we got C. For example, if I did this, it would sound kind of dark. That sounds like kind of like uplifting to me. So what I would do is this. I would keep these bass notes, I would highlight them, and then I would just copy and paste them up an octave, and then I would build my chords. Now we have a super basic, simple, emotional chord progression. And now sometimes when I do that, there'll be a chord I don't like. For example, maybe we have this. Like I just didn't like that middle one. So it's really just trial and error. You didn't like that one, so you try the next thing. It comes easy to me now that I've made hundreds of beats. So the best advice I could give to you is truly just trial and error. Make a bunch of beats, practice your chord progressions every single day, and then eventually you'll just kind of get it. Now, to get this emotional sound, if you want to continue to build off of this, you can now expand the chords. So right here are basic 3-note chords called triads. What if you just kept going? You know, skip a note in the scale, go up, skip a note, go up, skip a note, go up. They now sound bigger, even more emotion in them. And now, common misconception, people just think, oh, just keep adding more chords, it's just going to make it sound better. But it gets to a point where it's just like, what are we doing? I think 7th chords are good, 9th chords are pretty good too, which are these. But once you get past this many notes, it just starts to sound bad. So at most I would do this, but I'd probably just stick between, you know, your 3-note chords and then your 4-note chords. One final thing I'll give you is to change the voicings. So especially on like your R&B progression, stuff like that, sometimes it just sounds better if the notes are closer together. So for example, this C is kind of far away from everything. So what I can do is I could pitch this up an octave. So it's still the same chord, but like you see the C's a little bit closer to the next notes. So you can play the same chords in different ways, which might give it a different emotion or feeling. For example, I've always noticed in your minor chords, if you kind of pitch up the middle note up an octave, it sounds a little bit more emotional to me. And there we go. There's a progression. I just kind of, at the end, since I've been doing it so long, I just envisioned this chord in my head and then it worked. So we'll keep this. We'll come back to this in a bit. The next thing I want to cover is the dark side of things. If you're just making like a dark trap beat, it's so easy. It pretty much always starts on the 1 and then you just kind of build from there. The key to making dark melodies is to take use of your half steps. So we have our scale still, and you're going to notice there's like different patterns, you know, like right here, there's like a gap. Right here, there's 2 right next to each other. There's another gap. Your half steps are the notes that are right next to each other. So in C minor, it's D, D sharp, and then also G, G sharp. Notice when I play those, it's going to sound like dark. So take use of your half steps, not only in your chord progression, but in your melody as well, which we'll cover melodies in a bit. So starting with your progression, in dark stuff, a lot of the time it doesn't even move that much. So what you can do is you can actually start with your 1, but take use of the half step. So for your next chord, continue on the 1, but use the half step. All right, and then at the end, we can go up to here. And then again, we're taking use of the half step because we got G into G sharp. But then we're going to do the voicings like I said before. For dark stuff, it's very easy for it to sound too emotional. You know, once we start going like up, like it starts to sound too emotional. So I really just stick to like the 1. Obviously, you can experiment, but for the most part, my chord progressions look like this. I'll give you a little bonus tip as well. If you are really struggling to make progressions in both sounds, what you can do is you can just study songs you like. So look up some big trap songs or R&B, whatever you're trying to make, and just copy those chord progressions. See how those are built. And you'll notice that a lot of the big hit songs use the exact same chord progression over and over again. So it's not even wrong to steal just because like everybody's using the same thing over and over again. And they use it over and over again because it works. So a lot of people think they have to come up with some brand new chord progression, but I mean, there really only is like a handful of progressions that work. So now in terms of building a melody, we have our chords down. The easiest way by far to make a melody is to just use the notes that are in the chord. So what we're going to do, we're going to copy these, bring them up an octave. And now you see our notes C, D sharp, and G. We can just start to try and build some basic pattern with those notes. And now this is a little bit too boring, so this is where we can start to like sauce it up a little bit. Take use of the half steps again. So, you know, maybe every other one will change this. Or maybe we could do something like this where we have the half steps in a row. Yeah, that sounds good. And then, you know, if you've been making all your melodies in C minor, it's getting repetitive, what you can do is literally just turn the snap to scale off, and then you can transpose it. Now we'll try to build something off of this one as well. We got C, D sharp, G. For these emotional melodies, I kind of like to have the top line go into the next note. So like this chord goes into G, so I'll have this F right before it. Another tip I'll give you is like, you don't have to have some crazy like complex melody that's switching up all the time. You can literally copy and paste the same ideas over. So you can literally go like this and then maybe try and make it the same notes as the chord. So yeah, I think this would be good. And we'll switch this to match the chord again. Make sure it's all in key. Then maybe we could just flip this. You can go Option Y to flip the melody. So yeah, just kind of made those on the fly. I think they're pretty decent. I mean, it's really just for tutorial's sake, just to show that like, I really don't know the theory aspect. I just kind of follow notes in the scale, and then just with repetition, I've kind of learned what sounds good. If you're really struggling to make beats, I'm now offering something new. Me and you could work together, and I could coach you or mentor you into teaching you how to make beats, make better melodies, all of that. So if you've been struggling and you want to do that, just DM me the word coach on Instagram, and then we can get to work. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.